Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for coming back. We have our next session, Coaching, Mentoring, and Training, Oh My, by Kirk Knecky. Super excited to have him with us today. Again, don't forget, you guys can go back and forth. All of this is being recorded, and you'll have access to all of the presentation materials and recordings from that link that we shared with you with registration. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kirk, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Kelly. Thanks for this opportunity. And thanks, everybody. This is a great event. I've been kind of hovering and watching from afar today. I really appreciate the chance to get to talk to you all about some really important concepts working with other people in people organizations. And so I'm always amazed at how people look at coaching, mentoring, and training. And sometimes I find myself saying, oh my, these things are different things. And some people don't understand that they are different things. And when we are leaders in a people organization, we really need to understand the differences. So we're going to talk a little bit today about those differences and love to get some of your input and feedback as well. I'll try to watch the chat box, and please feel free to interrupt me at any time, or if anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment, that's what we're here for. You don't just need to hear me talk. So great teams are really diverse. And I think one of the key things that I've learned in my role as a CEO and superintendent over the last 9 years is that we are working with talented people across 5 generations for the most part, and sometimes even more. There's a gentleman who's been in my school district in Indian Hill who has literally worked there for more than 60 years. That's pretty incredible. He's a gem, he's a legend, and he can do whatever he wants because, quite frankly, he has more experience and knowledge than I have in my little finger. But working with people from across generations requires us to hire well, to add to the mix, and to also think about developing and implementing methods that allow us to coach, mentor, and train multi-generational organizations. And one of the number one things we have to do when we lead this is we have to address bias, and we have to remove generational bias from the workplace. So we're going to talk a little bit about these things today. If you have any questions afterwards, you can reach me at any time at Indian Hill. I'd be glad to talk to you, or email or Zoom after today. So one of the questions I have for you first is, do potential teammates who may join your organization see themselves in your district? I wonder how you feel about that with your current organization, and how you think the new employees who you're onboarding feel. So this is a picture of my primary school assistant principal with a couple of our students, and we created a commercial in our district for the first day back to school. What I can tell you about the individual in this slide, Mr. Gruber, is that he is always full of joy for children, and the children know it, and it's genuine. And I think we captured some of that in this commercial. But he chose to come to Indian Hill. He didn't work here his entire career. And I think he had to see in himself that he could be a good fit for our organization. We're lucky to have him, but we've also learned a lot from him because he's not from the same generation as most of the people on our leadership team. He does things differently. And so seeing his potential was really, really important. Quite frankly, his potential wasn't to be hired as a primary assistant principal. We don't hire anybody at Indian Hill as an administrator to be an assistant principal. We hire them with the vision in mind that they have the skills and the potential to become lead principals or district office leaders within a specific period of time. Andy has proven that. He will become our high school principal this summer. So I hope you get the point there. Seeing that video, I feel like we have a number of the personas that we're looking for in our district, and we tried to capture some of our leaders and our staff members and our children in the video. But the idea is, can people envision themselves fitting into this culture? And all the people in that commercial, they knew ahead of time. Modeling the way is really important. That's different than being fake. You can be authentic and model the way, and you can be a really important mentor. You can also be a really important leader for others. Coaching and mentoring and training are different. Training is not coaching or mentoring. Training people is about new learning and compliance skills. The first time that you learn something new, typically you're being trained. If it's experiential, like riding a bike, you may have a really good mentor in your mom or dad who's holding on to the back of that seat and teaching you how to pedal and guiding you through with reinforcement and helping you to feel good. But actually, you could learn to ride a bike without any of that. You could learn to do the skill. People can learn to shoot a free throw. They don't have to be mentored. They actually don't even need to have to be coached. They can be trained to shoot a free throw. Coaching and mentoring are different. Feedback is really formalized in training. It's about the mechanics. And new learning is really powerful to build a culture. So it's important as a leader to make sure that you understand there are things that people need to be trained in. And typically, when you want to scale up things across your entire culture, those things require some type of training. Your brand and how you teach people to communicate your brand is something everybody should be trained to do. That is something you would not mentor or coach somebody to do initially. You would train them, and then over time, you may coach them about that performance, or you may even evaluate or appraise what they're doing. Why invest in a great coach? Coaching is different than training. Coaches help you understand how to take the mechanics and use them and apply them directly for performance. They take the methods that you're learning and help you to refine them and hone them and elevate them. They are really good with communication skills. A great coach understands that change process takes time and includes periods of reflection and adjustment. Savvy teams typically have a coach. So as we're building teams across our organization, typically we want someone in place who understands how to bring talents out of others, how to work with different kinds of personalities, especially across generations, and how to ask powerful questions to get those teammates to reflect, to use the correct methods, and to perform. Coaches are here to drive success and performance outcomes. That's a lot different than training. That's a lot different than mentoring. Every leader who leads an organization or a part of an organization should have a coach. If you don't have a coach right now, you may want to ask yourself, why? Sometimes people think that at some point in their career, they stop growing or learning, or they don't have a need to do that. That's really not in alignment with a leadership culture. In a leadership culture where people are tasked with developing others, those people themselves should be open to coaching. I myself have many people that I consider performance coaches who I speak with regularly in order to reflect and improve and learn to hone my skills. That's a lot different than having an accountability partner or a mentor or going through a training for a day or even a month. Here's the key to having great coaches in an organization: the return on investment you get. When you're a steward of public dollars, or if you lead a private business, the return on investment you get when you develop other leaders the right way and they drive performance and success, when they change the outcomes, when they learn to train and transfer skills to others as a coach, that's when you save money. That's when you get to use the money you save for other things. And that's when you drive performance in your organization. Mentoring is a little bit different. Trying to hit the chat here. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you are clear.
Okay, thank you. Mentoring is a little different than coaching. Mentors are leaders in a different form. They help provide both formal and informal accountability. Mentors are more about performance management, not appraisal, not evaluation. A mentor is not there to judge you. A mentor is there to help you learn, help you build, and help learn within the culture so that you can be successful. Typically, a really good mentor is going to use communication norms and common language that everybody in the culture uses. Now, they may have learned those things from other people, but they understand them. And so when you get together with a mentor, whether it's one-on-one or a mentor of a small group or team, Typically, they're going to be focused on asking questions that have to do with your wellness, your professional learning, and how to build and maintain a strong climate and culture. The formal piece of mentoring for new employees and new hires is crucial. People don't know what they don't know. They don't understand your culture, even if they want to work there. Once they get hired, they still don't know your culture. They may see positive climate, and then they learn how everybody interacts and they see the dynamics as they experience them. So whenever you can reinforce the culture and build off positive climate and communicate those norms and values of your organization, that's where mentors are the most valuable, especially with new employees or people early in their career. Giving them a touch point where they have a space and a place that's safe, where they can talk about their own growth and development and their own wellness without judgment is really important to getting them to stay and thrive in an organization. Last year in the United States, of those people who changed jobs, 50% of them chose a new industry. That is a symptom of an illness. It means there's not enough mentoring going on in organizations across our country. There's probably also a lack of coaching in those same environments. A mentoring system is really important for you to develop in a people organization. And first, you have to decide who leads it. And that could be more than one person, but those people have to have that mindset that they're not trainers and they're not coaches, that they're creating a space for psychological safety. You also have to decide how many mentors based on the volume of your staff and the value of that time. There are a lot of people in school organizations who don't want to spend time on onboarding, orientation, or ongoing mentoring programs. They're not thinking about the return on investment long term. They're thinking about short term money and value decisions that have nothing to do with the employee's career journey. The employee's career journey and that employee thriving and staying is worth so much money to an organization when you invest in them. That is worth the time and the planning to have a mentoring system. If you're not thinking about it that way, you should ask yourself a question. What are you being intentional about with your money and spending in a people organization, and why? What should you be doing to help develop your employees? And are there boundaries? And I think if you can answer some of those questions, you can help yourself think about being intentional, getting a return on investment, and then the personalized growth that we're all here for people. A team's development approach is also really important. And whether we're talking about training, coaching, or mentoring activities, developing a team presence where people in your organization know that at every level, there are a team of people working on specific activities, that's really important for employee engagement. It really helps people feel a sense of psychological safety. It allows them to feel like they can share and have a voice in different ways at different times and in different formats. And it allows them to think about how there can be multiple impact by multiple people in an organization, not just one or two voices or leaders. So it's important that you are intentional, routine, and consistently setting up teams. Those teams of coaches, mentors, and trainers can provide different and powerful feedback to people. And employees in your organization, they get feedback in different ways. I would love to have some training feedback when I'm learning a new skill, especially when it comes to something like AI and machine learning, and I'm not the most savvy technology person in the world. It may take me a little more time, and I might need someone who can help me practice. That's different than the coach that I need to help me move someone else or inspire or motivate a teammate during a change process. And it's also different than a mentor who might just listen and want to understand how I'm creating a work-life balance here for myself while we move through our week and our year. Identifying and developing the next group of leaders amongst your teams is also crucial. Ask yourself this question: if your chief academic officer left tomorrow, could someone take their place and perform as effectively? If not, then you probably aren't developing the talent and the pipeline and a succession plan the right way. Ask yourself another question. If the head principal of your most important building left tomorrow, could another one of your leaders take up a mantle and be an effective leader in their own right and keep the organization moving forward with a positive climate? If not, then you need to work on your team development approach. At Indian Hill, one of the ways that we do this intentionally and consistently is the building of a calendar where we work on personalized professional development. We think about every employee through the lens of mentoring, coaching, and training. What are their needs? What are their interests? What are their wants? And then as a team at the district level with all of our principals, we decide how we scale up our organization by providing these different opportunities. But we ask them the question, what do they need to get stronger? What skills do they have as gaps that they can work on? Where should we go next in terms of learning for individuals and teams? And then if people have a want versus a need, why is that? And does it align with the priorities and framework we've set for the vision and missions of our district? Every year, our calendar builds in 18 hours that people can use for trade time or asynchronous time or time outside the typical school calendar to do personalized professional learning. You might say, well, why 18 hours? We've landed on 18 hours after doing some research on this over the last few years, and it equates to about 3 days of professional learning for us during the school year. The value proposition of this is that we're affecting all individuals. We're collecting data on their individual progress and team progress, and we're able to modify our professional learning calendar to meet needs every year. And it's a rolling calendar now. When we started off a few years ago, we kicked it off every spring. We finished it up by a certain time the following winter. Now people can go and access the menu 12 months out of the year. And whether they're a teacher, a bus driver, a cook, a mechanic, they have their own professional learning schedule. There are still things we're doing together as teams. There are still set times where we might meet with a group, and we're doing training all the time, along with coaching and mentoring for individuals and groups. One of the other things we are doing at Indian Hill is looking at our entire human capital calendar itself when it comes to the turnover of employees, onboarding, orientation, and then of course the exit of some employees and the hiring of new employees. No longer are we waiting until March to get going with a teacher posting. We're using stay interviews. We're using interviews at the ends of careers. We're using exit interviews. We're using onboarding and orientation reflection periods and time so that we can get people to tell us how their career is working for them, how long they're going to be with us, and what's coming next. And then we are acting on that as quickly as possible in order to keep our HR calendar moving forward. This helps everybody in the organization understand that we are always focused on our employee development and what they need and what tools we have to have in place for the whole of the organization. We really make human resources a focus at Indian Hill. So I've done a lot of talking, and I would ask you one more question. When you see this phrase, model the way, what does it mean to you? When you think of yourself as a human capital leader, when you think of someone who works with people, when you think about how to put the right people in the right place to do the right work at the right time, how do you model the way? It would be very easy to take an employer-focused approach and look at all of these people that work with you as pieces of a puzzle. I personally think that's the wrong way to do that. I think your job as a leader is to develop other leaders. I think if you take a leadership development lens, then you can model the way by putting a model in place that not only gives employees a chance to share their interests, but that can also have some framework or structure to it. And if you do it that way, you can improve the quality of your workplace, and you can strengthen your employees over time, and they will stay and they can thrive. That is the biggest motivator for me as a leader. I want people to be developed and to stay and thrive for their career journey, not for my needs. There are things that I want and would love to have in our organization, but more important, my job is about their future and their success and how it works with our team and our organization. That's a different mindset that some people have that work in public schools or who lead departments where you have to make human capital decisions. whatever label you use, we're in a people business, and we need to make sure that we're not just thinking about data measures of efficacy around our culture that are credentials, certificates, the number of people trained in a curriculum or content, who knows how to use this software, how many people were absent. We need to think about their individual career journey and how it aligns and intersects with ours. There's usually a point in life where people have to think about how their own personal and professional growth aligns with the career and the organization they're with. And ironically, there's not always a lot of alignment. We assume sometimes there should be. And we've all learned over time that there's lots of data that shows us it's not salary and it's not title and it's not progression to a promotion every year or two that usually helps keep that alignment. The alignment is usually shared values, ethics, and morals that are identified and reinforced over time with how the leaders of the organization develop and treat those in the organization. So thinking about how those things impact your budget and your planning are really, really important to have better outcomes for individuals and for your organization. That's the end of my spiel. And I know I've been talking a lot at you. We've got a couple minutes left. If any of you have any questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And I know some of you are off camera, but if there's anybody who has a comment or a question, I would love to hear from somebody in the group that's here today. I can always learn from you. I don't have all the answers and would love some reaction to what we just went through.
So Kurt, while we're waiting for questions, do you want to send me the link to your commercial? I might be able to play it on my end and have the sound. We kind of had that issue with the previous presentation.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I will send
No, that's
that to
okay.
you.
But if you put it in the chat, I might be able to open it on my end and share it. And that might work while we're waiting.
Great.
And it looks like we might have a question, so I'll let you do that while I look for your attachment here.
So
Okay.
Kirk, any suggestions when you're in an environment that isn't necessarily set up this way on getting started, where getting buy-in is maybe difficult? We've got a situation where within our organization, everything's attached to that monetary value. What do I get out of it? So any suggestions for getting people on board without the monetary?
The first question I would ask you back is that the vision or the mission or the priority being defined by management or by a union? And if it is being defined by a union, then there are a number of questions that management should be asking to redefine the relationships. And one of the best things to do is just start by asking questions about wants and needs and trying to rank order those things around some interest-based principles and priorities, because everything can be attached to money, but most of the time people want to be heard and they want to be able to articulate their wants and needs. And then it's easy to put a calendar or a timeline or learn how to scale up so that we can meet those needs over time. But I think ultimately, what is the source of those issues? If it's coming from leadership and management, then people probably need a retreat in time to start talking about their why and why are they in the roles that they're in and what their job is. And if their job is not to develop other leaders and they don't give you that answer, then you need to ask 5 other questions. Why they think that way, how long they've thought that way, what would make them change why they think that way, and how to go about changing quickly.